Final Fantasy VII is easily one of the most popular RPGs of all time. Its release was momentous for Square Enix and for the Final Fantasy franchise, which departed from previously releasing on Nintendo hardware to Sony's entry into the console wars, the PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII wasn't just an RPG when it launched. It represented an archetype of a gameplay experience, of storytelling, of grandiosity and scale, all of which were present in previous games, but took on a new life with Final Fantasy VII and the Final Fantasy franchise's successive releases on the PlayStation and continuing on to the PlayStation 2 with the two Final Fantasy X games and Final Fantasy XII. Its legacy is such that it spawned spin-offs, a CGI movie in Final Fantasy Advent Children, and led to the inclusion of Cloud Strife, the protagonist of Final Fantasy VII, being included as a guest character in Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, later returning for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Final Fantasy VII is the biggest Final Fantasy franchise within the franchise of Final Fantasy itself. With a property that is apparently so esteemed, one has to wonder what gives regarding the planned Final Fantasy VII Remake. The history of the remake begins with a PS3 tech demo on display at E3 2005 showing the opening of Final Fantasy VII up to Cloud jumping out of the train. The tech demo was definitely well received, but it was later clarified by Square Enix that at the time of this tech demo's display, there was no remake in the works. Strangely, it was reported in 2006 that PS2 remakes of 7, 8, and 9 were planned, but these were scrapped. To frame this progression of events, remember that the PS3 released in Japan and North America in November of 2006. Since this time, there was no word about a Final Fantasy VII remake materializing at all. Relevant personnel within Square Enix Japan often expressed reservation at the prospect of the project prior to the remake's announcement. Final Fantasy VII director Yoshinori Kitase stated that in 2011 that for a Final Fantasy VII remake, he would think it necessary to delete parts of the game and add new elements, speaking from the vantage point of a game creator wanting to create a fun experience for fans that isn't just a repeat. Yoichi Wada, formerly the president of Square Enix, stated in 2012 that he wouldn't sign off on a Final Fantasy VII remake until another Final Fantasy game had surpassed it, and in his eyes, then recent releases such as 13, 13-2, and 14 had not hit that target. Throughout the years leading up to that 2015 official announcement, it would seem that circumstances never really aligned to give the remake a full push forward. When the remake was finally announced, Kitase re-emphasized that it would be a highly ambitious project to fully remake the game, and such was what they envisioned for the title. Notably, Final Fantasy VII Remake is planned to release through multiple installments rather than as a singular package, so as to avoid the cutting of original content and leave open the possibility of additions as the developmental team sees fit. This isn't meant to compare, for example, the release of the Final Fantasy XIII saga, which told stories from different vantage points, with what is planned for Final Fantasy VII Remake, only to illustrate a similarity in terms of scale. Coincidentally, favorability towards working on a Final Fantasy VII Remake turned within Square Enix when the Final Fantasy XIII saga was complete, as Kitase himself had been working on the Final Fantasy XIII games. Additionally, remake director Tetsuro Nomura also later revealed that with time passing, the opportunity for the original Final Fantasy VII staff members to work on a game may disappear as they get older, and so he wanted original staff on such a project while it was still possible. Such staff includes Kitase serving as producer, Nomura serving as director, Nobuo Uematsu returning as composer though not initially announced to return, and Kazushige Nojima returning as the writer. Square Enix had hoped that the announcement would bolster Japanese developers' motivations to make games for the PS4. Fast forward to today, and the PS4 is in much better straits in Japan, though your mileage may vary on whether or not the remake's announcement contributes to that. Regardless, the announcement of the remake, as we would later see, was not insignificant. It powered a stock price rise for Square Enix, and the E3 2015 announcement trailer itself has more than 15 million views as of this video's publication. A video released later that year for the PlayStation Experience, Sony's annual promotional event, showcased the ambitions of the development team for the remake. The opening sequence in Midgar is, to say the least, nothing like the original experience, expanded upon significantly. Battles take a note from more recent action RPG offerings rather than the active time battle system introduced with Final Fantasy IV. But since then, outside of 2 screenshots, it's been something akin to silence on the project for fans, which has drawn worry, ire, anxiety, all manner of apprehension. It's a bit astonishing for a project so esteemed and showing so much promise, but Nomura would later state that he himself had been alternating work focus between Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake within the last couple of years, and as is probably obvious, both titles are high investment projects. He planned to shift full focus to Remake once Kingdom Hearts 3's release and development were concluded. With Kingdom Hearts 3 finally launched, it seems that now is the time for work on Final Fantasy VII to move forward with fewer interruptions. Another important aspect of what will probably make the release wait difficult for fans is the fact that not only is the game being remade from the ground up with new character and environment models, scripting and music composition, but the game's systems and general delivery of the experience are going to be significantly different. The developers came to the realization that simply releasing a more beautiful version of Final Fantasy VII would create an experience that is dated by today's standards of gaming, and so they wanted Remake to be an original experience itself. We can hope that the planned episodic release structure for the game will pace waiting game players eager to experience the game and also allow for interesting feedback to be relayed to Square Enix. It must also be stated that the game reportedly went through some development issues. The game was being made in conjunction with CyberConnect 2, but back in May 2017, it was revealed that development is now happening in-house at Square Enix. As of November 2018, Nomura stated that development of the game is going on fine and favorably. And that concludes our video wondering what is going on with the remake of Final Fantasy VII. The original is an incredibly popular game and was seminal for its time. Square Enix as a company has changed much from many of the titles that gave the powerful name that it has today, and so has its developers, who have pursued newer projects and have had to work within a gaming landscape that changed greatly after the influential Final Fantasy VII was released. Square Enix also is not without its own politics. For Remake, it took a lot of time for relevant personnel to even warm up to working on the project, and for those relevant to realize that they wanted to be the ones in charge of helming something so important to gaming as Final Fantasy VII Remake. And still yet, everyone involved had to contend with coordinating work schedules of their own, as we can see with Katase's comments to the 13 series and Nomura's work on Kingdom Hearts 3. Thankfully, the climate would seem proper for development to go full force properly within Square Enix, so we hope to see more promotional discussion and media released soon. Did you play Final Fantasy VII when it released on the PlayStation? Are you watching this video with any familiarity on Final Fantasy VII or Cloud Strife? What do you think of the episodic release structure and the new gameplay systems planned for the game? Do you embrace them, or would you have been fine with a more simple remake that deviated little from the original? Are you one of those who just wants anything for the game to be released already? A demo, a video, whatever. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.